If you can hear me, give me a shout out. This is a live video and it will remain live. It is 11 a.m. Central Standard Time in Texas on the 22nd. And if you're late to this, then it won't be a live video anymore. So, a few introductions. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. Work with around 1,000 clients a year. And we work with housing issues and dealing with housing authorities. We also work with landlords and try to help with the occupancy. But the big issue is answering all those questions we can't get most people to answer at the public housing authority. Okay. That's why my sole job seems to exist, is just that purpose. So today, in all humor and fun, we'll talk a little bit about housing authorities. And I've had very mixed feelings about them over the last 22 years with consulting with both tenants and landlords. So I want to address the elephant in the room, is the fact that there are certain precarious situations that housing authorities put themselves in. But to understand that process, we must first kind of figure out how they operate, what they do, and why things seem to go so badly all the time. But before we do, this video is here for you guys to ask questions, okay? It's not just to humor the housing authority. So if you have questions related to low-income housing, Section 8 housing, vouchers, and other issues, harassment, discrimination, federal code of regulation, policies, procedures, and so on, now would be a good time to ask. Or you could sit there quietly if you wish and be entertained to a certain degree. So one of the bigger issues we first need to understand is not all public housing authorities are owned by the city or staffed with city or county employees. A lot of public housing authorities are private, with private employees. That's why when you go to public housing authorities, say in the Midwest, in Oklahoma, in a small town, maybe the population is 5,000, and you look up that housing authority address and you see it's just somebody's random little house from the 40s, and you got a little old lady sitting in there with one little telephone, and she's your public housing authority. I've seen it plenty. Okay. Where we deviate and where the problems consist are in those situations, but they become convoluted the greater the organization. Okay. Because what happens is politics get involved. So we want to show impressive numbers. We've got lots of vouchers, and be able to publish what a wonderful job we're doing, pat on the back. And so a great example of that is going to be LASHA, or Los Angeles Housing Authority. There are many good individuals that work there and try to do their best. And there are many which work there. This is a little more than a paycheck, and they don't care. So you look at this morally and ethically, and you have to wonder whether or not people even care whether people get housing or vouchers and why it's so personal. So first thing you say that I hear most is that most people in principle that deal with housing authorities or need their questions answered, housing authorities are not required in any under any law in which to explain their self-educate or do anything. Their sole job is to receive funding. If they're private, make money, and C, to simplify their job as much as they believe is permissible under law, and to not answer your questions. Okay. Many of which you have front row staff, the people that answer phones. They're rude. Most of them are very rude, condescending, and you're left feeling like a hooker on Broad Street after you've had a talking to with them. Many housing authorities do not answer the phone. They find it to be a waste of time. They're not interested in your situation, why your life's falling apart, why you need a discount, or whether you're a senior or disabled. Okay, that is a very common theme I've seen around America. We already have that in place in most every other thing in life. The housing authority does an exceptional job, most public housing authorities, at really making people feel like trash. How do I know this? I mean, you deal with 18 to 20,000 clients. There's a very common theme. But I want to say also that there are many housing authorities in America that are privately owned and county owned, in which they do an excellent job. There's just not that many. And I think that this is the convolution comes into processes when, we go back to LASHA, the Los Angeles Housing Authority. Here's an exemplary example of how a housing authority, rather than issue vouchers throughout the pandemic, okay, say 1,000 a month over the course of a year, which would be 22,000 vouchers. Instead, what do? We wait to the absolute peak of a housing bubble, extraordinary rents, and then we issue 30,000 vouchers. And because it looks great on the mayor's office, on the governor's desk, but the reality of it is, any ordinary person would have understood that issuing that many vouchers at one time in a market like that, when there's probably less than 5,000 houses to be rented, it was a fabulous joke. Now, we dispersed these slowly over time, that it made sense, but the motivations politically sometimes mean that. So I have to say that was probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. We have got housing authorities have got to reconsider the position on issuing staggering amounts of vouchers on the market when it cannot be absorbed. So another thing I want to tell you about, guys, this is a policy that you should strongly follow. And I'm going to answer, I see a few of you guys are bringing up questions, and I'm going to answer those. Just give me a few minutes to get through this part. You know, looking at questions and the Q&As and trying to educate, one of the bigger problems we face is the fact that people are unable to get answers. And so when greed and money and poor management take place, they could fundamentally have a person just like me working in that office that could answer questions all day to a reasonable limit, of course. But they don't. So dodging phone calls and misdirecting. When I deal with housing there, I dealt with one the other day. I talked to a lady that answered the phone. This woman couldn't, and then no offense against women, okay? But this particular lady that worked there, didn't even know what I was talking about, okay? I actually verbatim the qualifying example on their own website, and this delusional woman couldn't even figure out what the fuck I was talking about. I mean, what exactly is her job there? Does she scrub toilets till noon and then she's reception? It was a disgusting example of a completely foolish and ignorant person that's making a paycheck on the dime of everybody that's working, taxpayer money, that doesn't even know the difference between their own policies. It had been like you hiring a children's party clown and then installing that crazy woman to be the person that's supposed to be on the phone to figure out where these calls go. So she sends me off to some random number. And that was, in my opinion, either out of extraordinary ignorance or she's just a fool. And so this is the face and voice of that particular housing authority. And this is what I believe in principle most of you face. Foolishness, ignorance. We've got one chief in the building, and then we've got a bunch of babbling fools rolling around in the building. I'm not talking about the executive level. Clearly, we have an executive level employees, but I mean, we have to do a better job, because a lot of people don't have all the answers they need, and they're depending on these people to act like professionals. But what we have is professional clowns. So let me roll back to the comments being delivered in the channel real quick live. Shirley Griffin says, waiting, relaxing in my huge, colorful hammock. Well, Miss Griffin, I can certainly use one of those out here. At least the weather's still cool, and still working on our garden outside the office. Labita G. Are any public housing residents complaining of complete corruption where workers have participated in organized targeting? And better yet, well, on average, even a simple Google search would yield at least over 100 results where housing authorities have been sued, levied. They've even had the feds storm some housing authority. I mean, literally stormed a door and given a 92-point indictment. This is not uncommon. One of the bigger problems is the government's gotten so big with the program, and because so much of it's privatized, you allow people to just act and do whatever they want. Now, these are supposed to be the defenders of the interest of people and their civil rights and other issues, but what we have is thugs working in the office talking smack to client. That's how else could you read that? Seriously, it'd be like me hiring the maid to run the whole building. Not to suggest that a person that does housekeeping work is a fool, but I'm suggesting that if you're gonna be professional and administer federal programs, then why are we hiring off the sidewalk? Why doesn't anybody have an answer? There are clearly policies, procedures, and manuals in the building. Does nobody care to read any of that? Are we still in our bed slippers working from home and just trying to get a check? So we fundamentally have people that don't give a shit what happens to anybody. They could be dying. They could have an 80-year-old woman in a car freezing to death with their poodle, and these people honestly do not care. This is what we face every day dealing with housing authorities, and many of my clients do. You know, and the same thing with my landlords. I had a landlord just recently go to PHA to have an executive meeting. It had been better to have had a meeting at the county jail with convicts, because it didn't appear the executive level people knew anything. They seemed to be confused at their own information. So it tells me that there's a disconnect in the ability for their IT department to give information, or they're just building out a bunch of fluff on a website that's outdated, and then it's a misdirection, professional misconduct. And so this is why all of it's just convoluted. You know, we have administration by party clowns and fidget spinner experts working at the housing authority. People that just recently got off crack, now they're working at the housing authority. People that just got off the bus from 5 to 10 years in the federal pen, they're now working in the back office, answering phones, talking shit. Now, do I believe that's an exceptional example? Of course. I don't think that every housing authority would operate that way. But I can think that how many times I've even my own, as long as I've been doing it, I've called the housing authority and I completely lost my mind inside my head because of staggering, absolute staggering convolution, and the fact that these people seem to not even understand. You try to quote or verbatim any federal law to them, it's just a wild ride on the phone. And you know, one common theme that always seems to keep coming up when I get on the phone with these folks, when you do hand their ass to them on the phone, it completely goes dead, because the person at that point realizes that they're completely at a loss to how to rebuff, to even answer the question. They've been defeated. So their only option is to go quietly in the night and hang up, or you get a big dead silence because they've been literally beat over the head with a federal law and they don't even know how to defend themselves. So back to comments. LL says, it's so sad that they hire these unprofessional clowns. And again, you know, not all of them are professional clowns, but most of them, I would imagine, had some prior experience at the rodeo, you know? Noah, I was on Section 8 list for nearly 12 years. Got a letter a week ago saying that my application was withdrawn because I never turned in the documents, but I never got prior notice. Another clever deception, my friends. And again, I'm not trying to exploit anybody's paranoia or fear, okay? When you do business with the housing authority because of mismanagement, professional misconduct, and everything else that goes on, if it does, anytime you communicate with these people, it would be advisable to have a matter of record, an email chain that's CC'd. If it ain't done that way, anytime you submit anything dealing with a housing authority, make sure it has a tracking number. Look, I can't tell you how many times I've heard about, hey, you learned that you had a voucher a year ago, but they never called. You know, that's the game. And so when they try to force you into the phone call game, don't do it. Ask for an accommodation by mail. Do it by mail or do it by email, never the phone. If the person misdials, then you're just done. They'll purge you from the list. It's quite the art these days to purge people. And so they can randomly change numbers and addresses and all kinds of stuff to ensure the stuff never gets delivered. And how often does this happen? It's happened enough, and I hear about it enough. It's such an extreme volume that I hear of it that I would suggest to you that it happens more, probably over 30-40%. So LL goes on to say, can I speak on Section 13 next time? I don't even know what Section 13 is, my friend. I know what Section 8 is. And for those that don't know what Section 9 is, that's when you get arrested, you spend time in the federal penitentiary, and they pay 75% of your lease for you. 3 hots and a cot in a jail cell. That's also a voucher. Very permanent housing. Nobody wants Section 9. Section 13, I can't even imagine what that might be. Just as a joke. Deuce says, excellent. I'm always having an excellent day anytime that I can literally point out the super obvious about housing authorities, public housing authorities that are answerable to the public, burning federal funds, but you'd swear that little old man, that little old lady working there, you'd swear that they were pulling dollar bills out their purse, that they were literally giving away their grandma's antiques. These people have become so delusional. It's like they're little mini gods sitting in their $2 Walmart office chair, moaning and bitching about everything, but they can't seem to come around to the reality of giving anybody a voucher. We talked about that 2 years ago during the pandemic about housing authorities and how nobody can get a voucher, but yet when a Christmas party rolls around, you can be assured that Mary the maid, she got a voucher and a Christmas card. Joe Bob out there with the lawnmower at the Christmas party, he got a voucher too. But mere mortals can't get them. There's always some distinction with these people at playing the game. And one thing that I preach widely across the channel, and except for this very exceptional video where I'm using very extreme examples, sensational almost, is that, if you're going to play the game, you might as well play to win. If you know that this is already rigged, and if you're going to play a rigged game, then you better damn well to play to win. If anybody's under the delusion that this isn't almost a game, then you're crazy. It's so sad because when I see people that have never had to depend on the system come to our office, they really believe that it's like Social Security and other agencies there to help them. And then they leave there almost having a mental episode because they don't understand why anybody would have talked to them like they were a hooker. I mean, they're flabbergasted to the point they don't ever want to call back and they just throw up their hands. And it almost seems implied to train people to do that at PHH. If you talk to somebody like trash enough, then they'll simply quit coming around, and then they've achieved their goal. They've thinned the herd of people wanting the vouchers by showing and displaying as perfect of unprofessional attitude as they could on the phone, and then they can get rid of about half the people that ever want to come around and get anything from them because they need it. It's exceptional. It's a mind game. What else could it possibly be? It certainly isn't customer service. Debbie Basso, I tried to book an appointment with you, and it says I can't find the page. Check the URL. Ms. Bezos, we haven't had any problems with our website. I find most frequently happens is sometimes phone carriers have problems. Sometimes the first try, weak internet signal, blackouts, dark area. Hell, I've got them in my own office. You walk from the office to the bathroom and you got an area and you try to text or do something and it doesn't go through. My suggestion, Tammy, is just use a different browser or something because I can guarantee you we use a very, very good software for booking and we haven't had any recent issues. So let me see if I can find the links real quick, Ms. Bezos. And also, you can just go through the main booking software. So for those who are wondering about these links, they are links to our company website and they're to our booking software for those that have questions and would like to get a real answer. Otherwise, you're relegated to what? So what are our real options out here when we want free advice? Well, your free advice comes from 211. And I would rank those employees there about the same as the Public Housing Authority, except for the executive level people. Your secondary options are clearly after 211 and 311 is information lines of crazy people with a keyboard. The Housing Authority, which may or may never answer their phone or may not return your call for weeks. And even then, you'll get a talking to like you're a child and then they'll hang up on you. And then, of course, you have HUD, which HUD's the feds and they deal with issues. But unfortunately, they're not going to give you 20 minutes, not like I would. You got to get to the point with them quickly. Your time is of the essence over there. But at least the feds do a better job. So I commend, the thing about it is HUD is not the housing authority. HUD does not issue vouchers and all that. HUD's only job is to disperse federal funds. Those funds roll down to the state. They're dispersed to PHAs or public housing authorities. And so all the drama and stuff you're dealing with is not HUD. It's the local housing authority. take a sip of coffee, and then we're going to keep going. So beyond that, a matter of public record is a must. You must, anytime you're communicating with housing authorities, you're going to want to make sure you have a tracking number. It's done by email. Avoid phone calls with the plague. I would recommend that if you're waiting on an answer or a voucher and other things, that you visit in person and get your answers that way, and check frequently every 6 months. People sitting on a wait list. Well, I don't understand. I applied in 1981 and they still haven't rung my phone. Honey, they purged you years ago. If you've been on that list greater than 3 years, you ain't heard from them, you ain't getting that voucher, okay? It's just that's reality. I don't want to bust anybody's bubble. They purged you a long time ago. You may not know it. And if you've been on that list a real long time and you've not received a document annually every year to update your answers or change the fundamental answers you gave on your original application, you could be sure that you were kicked off that list a long time ago. So let's talk about another thing that's convoluted. When we deal with a public housing authority, which may issue vouchers, housing choice vouchers, that whole system put together is what we used to call Section 8. So you have the public housing authority, and it's cutting vouchers, and those vouchers could be it could be funded by many different things, like subsection 202, seniors that are 62 and older that are disabled. It could be funded by Section 811, which is those that are 18 to 61 but not seniors and also disabled. And then there's another wide variety of vouchers as well. But the key point I'm trying to make here is, besides that, you have project-based housing. Why do they call it project-based housing? Well, back in the day, you had projects. There you go. And the projects were simply that. They were welfare funded. The system that we fundamentally knew in the 80s does not exist anymore. It's much different and it's changed many times. But the point I'm trying to grab at is this: the public-based housing. So you have that, and then you look at whether or not you receive a voucher or do you move in the building by the public housing authority, which is project-based housing. So project-based housing is a situation where you not only allow the housing authority to issue your voucher and remain control of that and dictate how you're going to use that voucher, you're also making the housing authority your landlord. And that's a bad idea. Let me tell you a little known fact about public housing and project-based housing, okay? You ever wonder why you have projects and they tend to be a little bit more crime-ridden than other areas? When a housing authority owns buildings, they'll do one or two things. They'll cherry pick the people with the best credit scores and other things, and they'll go into one place or be offered a voucher, okay? And then those that they find undesirable, that may have inclusion of all kinds of crimes and gang activity and so on, they'll jam all into project-based housing. So what you're doing is you're pooling the city's worst into several properties, destroying the neighborhood, and then the expansion of criminal activity happens. Now, am I suggesting that everybody in project-based housing is a criminal? No, absolutely not. Many people that I knew grew up in it. What I'm suggesting is it's a lethal place for seniors. It's also dangerous for young adults. And not only that, but most project-based housing that is owned by the housing authority, do you think they care? Because this is a game of making money. It's in their interest to buy the cheapest land. And where's the cheapest land going to land you? In the worst neighborhood. And I've suggested for years, decades now, that you not get involved, because unless you're really tough, that's not going to be an ideal situation for you. If you're retiring or a senior, it's not going to be good for you families. That's the example that you're setting with your children, your grandchildren living in that property, and then they're going to experience the world through their eyes and see it that way. When in reality, that's just a small segment of our society that decides to operate that way. So we have a shitty housing authority that owns the building with shitty people in it. And then occasionally, through the application process, seniors get sucked into it. They're in a hurry. They didn't house it quickly. And then without little thought, they accept project-based housing. I can't tell you how many times over the last 3 years we had to rescue people They didn't have a fundamental understanding what project-based housing was, got in there, and discovered that when the sun went down, you get shot until sun up again, and other issues. Everything that's not nailed to the building, that's not screwed or concreted to the ground, got stolen. If the car's parked in the lot, it doesn't mean nothing. It's just, look, between a tire iron and that glass, there's nothing separated, and everything in that car getting stolen. Hear about it all the time. And then management, the beauty of the party clown. We call those advanced party clowns because of those that manage this project place housing. You know, there's a housing authority, but there's a different kind of evil there. These people will display just about every virtue of nasty that you can imagine, from bigotry to racism and all kinds of issues, targeting. And then some of these people aren't even mentally balanced that are managing project based. And so they're talking to people badly. They're targeting people for a wide range of issues. Man, look, I could create a whole new phone line just for people that have been caught up with managers that have played favorites and other things on these properties and created a living hell for the tenants. You can write a book on that. All right, let's get over these comments real quick before they get too thick, and I'm going to answer some questions if I can. Feel like I'm preaching today, but that's just the mood here in this live video. Belinda Jones is out of Philadelphia Housing Authority. Talked to me like I was poop on the bottom of their shoes. They lost my paperwork. You can't be sure it was lost. There's also a difference in just raking it in the trash can. They lost your paperwork, important documents I submitted, mistakes they made, and tried to blame. And of course, you have to love that. Now, when you reach the second level of master clown, you can actually go and mess somebody all the way up, make them lose their voucher, lose all their documents. And then if you're a super con artist, then you can blame it on the victim. It's almost like there's a manual at every housing authority. Here's how to victimize the victim. Make it their fault. See that all the time too. Labita G, how to pursue justice when you're wasting time following the line of procedure like grievance than small claims. Well, you have to deploy the same tactics they're deploying, but you have to do it a different way. So if they're out there to deliberately and in your face do these things, then I would suggest that you capture federal law. So these are violations clearly of civil rights and other issues. And then you'd want to bait them, then trap them into violating those federal laws. Once you have a amount of record in that, skip filing formal complaints at the Ding Dong Housing Authority. That's like being pulled over by the police and then being beaten up. And then you drive the police station, only discover the very people that beat you up are the people are going to be investigated. So you have to take this to a federal level. You got to get it out of control of the county and the state. And then you got to up it to the federal level. And when you're baiting and trapping these people, you didn't make sure they're violating very distinct laws like harassment, civil rights issues, and discrimination, and have a clear record of it. But not just having a record of an incident. You need to show a pattern of this activity. And each time doing that. If that is not quite compelling enough to push it through, then you do a media packet. It may cost you a few $100s, but what it does is it exposes that behavior to all the news agencies in a 100-mile radius, and then you make them answerable. Because why? Then they're gonna feel the heat of city government come down on them, because now the people that shouldn't be in the paper, and people it hasn't going to roll. So bait, trap, and then throw them under the bus. Once you throw them under the bus, then you run over them a couple more times. Make sure they're still not breathing when you do it. Not on a literal term, but you see my point. So there's lots of ways to remedy. Sometimes, as I suggested, when you're playing a rigged game, sometimes when you want to people administer pain to you back, you just have to torture them back. And to do that, you have to be clever in the method that you do it. So you need evidence. You need to drag it up to the federal level, and then you go after them. So there's a chain of custody of all the things that you're tracking in your case, day to day, times, dates, so on, always witnessed. And then you're wanting to make sure that they match the exact violations of federal law, and you've got a real case. Tip. Hello, hope all is well. How long does it take for the reasonable accommodation request to be approved or denied? Well, there's not a specific timeline, but there's a broader range of time based on the experience and number of clients that I've had through my own company. And so those was the answer I'm going to give is me based on that. Okay. So reasonable accommodations, usually the approval process may be between 30 and 60 days. More complex cases could drag on for months. Without knowing the accommodation you're requesting, without knowing whether or not it would actually even be reasonable, and then not knowing the type of landlord and how you're trying to utilize this accommodation would be difficult to say. But I would imagine over the larger chunk of trying to get accommodations for many different reasons, most go through or denied at 30 to 60-day point. Aline Woods, you keep passing up my comments. Miss Woods, I'm not keeping it in that, but you're suggesting that I am only focusing on other comments. To be frank with you, I address what questions I want to, if I want to, and then that's it. That's the luxury owning the channel, and I don't target specific individuals and comments. If I missed your comment, and we'll scroll back and just make this as an example. Looking through the live comments here, there's only one comment from you. So either you're having a problem with bubblegum in your keys and you're unable to press enter the comment, or it's not coming through, or YouTube blocks it. But I'm not skipping your comments, okay? Nobody's paying me to pick or choose comments. Doesn't work that way. Tip, haven't heard anything since. Case manager does not respond. Well, it's not shocking. They got some of these caseworkers got up to 800 cases. You're being processed a lot like cattle would be. And, objectively, when you're paying a person $6 an hour to be a caseworker, look, don't be surprised, guys. If you drive by the cheeseburger shop, you get a cheeseburger out the window and you think, well, man, that's got to be the stupidest person I've ever dealt with. And then you get to the housing there, you discover that was a cheeseburger woman. Don't be shocked at that. When you see that angry woman at Walmart, she's about, 58. And she's working at the checkout counter, and then you find out she's your caseworker at noon. I've heard that more than 100 times. The only people they hire are bitter bees. Bitter bees. Who better to answer the phone and who better to thin the crowd than people that just got a general attitude? In fact, they really should just employ people from the county jail. Put the telephones in the prison cells and just let people there talk shit to everybody, because it's about at the same level. The depraved attitudes, the unwillingness to help, no moral center, ethically don't care, has no understanding of what it means. They're stepping all over people's rights, and they're hoping that you just don't even have a copper pin in your purse to fight them, and most don't. And so they're allowed the monster's fed the more that people don't report it and actually do anything. You keep feeding the monster and it just gets nastier and nastier. Every day it picks up that phone line and talks shit to another person. That is the reality. Gale Resources. Be the squeaky wheel check back every 60 days. Well, Gail, you mystified me on that one. But so, today's really is, I'm going to designate January 22nd National Talk Shit About the Housing Authority Day. Because the reality is I'm as fed up as many of my clients as most of you are. And for the housing authority employees that do care, I commend your efforts. And for the housing authority that have taken proactive measures to stamp out the nonsense, I commend you. I can think of many, actually. But the vast majority, no. This is not in service to seniors and disabled. It's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty to sit there and victimize people that have already had a rough life, that don't have hope as it is, and then your only job is to drag your ass up into a housing authority, pick up the phone, and talk to people like they're absolute shit, to act like a little monster. That's the reality. So I think that we should put this on a brighter tone. That way we don't go home and cry a little bit. We're in good season, guys. Until about April or March, let's see, January, February, March, April. I'd say April. We're still in a good season for vouchers to get them. More housing authorities are opening every day. We had a string of videos of openings. So new federal budget, new year. We still have a lot of existing vouchers around the nation from the October dispersal of vouchers and funding then. Success rates are still fairly high, even with us as a company. We're still seeing a lot of success there. Tough cities are still tough. You got to fight hard to get what you need. The portability process is becoming a little bit easier than it ever has because now it's allowing clients to apply in different states and counties than where they live, grab a voucher, and then request that it be pulled back to where they are, which means that you don't have to sit there in your zip code in your county and wait for that housing authority to open up the next 9 years or deal with a waiting list with 90,000 people on it. So there are remedies and solutions to getting housing and vouchers. One other thing I'd like to educate, and I brought up many of my videos, but I keep bringing it up because there's always new people on the channel. The housing authority is not the only people that issue vouchers. You have continuum of care and housing first programs, and they issue emergency vouchers, permanent supportive housing vouchers, and rapid rehousing vouchers. For those of you that don't care for vouchers, then you can look into subsidies, LITch or tax credit properties, which allow you to apply, and then you pay between 50 and the subsidy requires no voucher. It's a subsidized property and would allow you just to pay, about 30 to 50% of your income towards rent. And then the other half they'll cover. It's not the best deal in America, but if you can find a subsidized property, better known as affordable housing or low income housing, it doesn't always require a voucher. And so you have new buildings being built all the time under that initiative of $25 billion they gave out. And so if there's a new building coming up, that might be a solution for you, especially those that don't need it for a lifetime. All right, taking a sip of coffee, and then we're going to begin the wrap-up of the video. Tip says, thank you. Bell Anamorphed, indeed. Lavita G, thank you. Kelly, how are you? I have recordings and text. The texts are especially good. If you record somebody, Kelly, make sure you have their permission, okay? LL, I am disabled. Can I apply for emergency housing voucher? Well, LL, if you have inclusion or you believe that for some reason fundamentally you're unable to pay your rent, that you're possibly going to be evicted, or you can no longer afford the place you're living in, and that situation will likely go bad for you in the next 60 days, then yes, you could apply for an emergency housing voucher. Fran Nagy, which is a current client. They are difficult to get into. Hey, Fran, I'm going to do a quick shout out to you. I think you owe me a signature on a contract, if I'm correct. I got to check and see, but need to get that back from you by Monday, Fran. LL housing voucher. Well, LL, you can apply for most vouchers all around the country. The contingent on the answers you give will determine the type of voucher and how it's funded and so on. Fran says you didn't get the contract. Okay. Well, I'll do a resend later today. We just need to make sure we get, for those of you that are clients, I see there are a few people here that are clients of our company. If you have a contract from us, you need to sign it. Okay. We don't do bar napkin deals. This is not an agreement between me and then send me a gift card from all that. We're under oversight. We get audited. We have to have an 8-page contractual agreement. We work with clients. We use CRM or client management systems and so on to track our clients and have a matter of record. Okay. So those that are wondering, these videos are made as an educational thing. I'm not here to sell jack. I'm just trying to educate you folks about different things. And I'm also sharing my very skewed opinion of Section 8 housing authorities and so on. But I think that y'all will agree a lot with my opinions to some degree. Kelly Pork says, thank you. The recordings are a nuisance of a neighbors upstairs. Okay. I can see why you would want to do that. Well, guys, I've quite enjoyed talking to you. I believe this is going to be our live and Q&A. If you'd like to join another live Q&A, it'll likely be around 11 a.m. next Sunday. Throughout the week, I do live videos, which you can ask some questions, but it's going to be a different subject matters. I believe that this coming week, I'm going to be talking about disabilities again, and I'm going to be talking about seniors. We need to refresh that information for 2023. It's a new year. There are new things going on, and so we need to, once again, talk about everything. And if you watch videos of my channel, there's over a decade, there's 800, 900, who knows? It's probably even more than that, but try to stick with the new ones, okay? Because policies, procedures, and how everything is done changes year to year. It doesn't do you any good to watch a video I made 2018, okay? If in any way you like the advice, we're here. We make these videos live. I don't ask anybody to like videos, subscribe, any of that. Never have, never will. That's for you to do if you wish to follow along with us. I'm not going to encourage that. To be honest with you, I watch enough YouTube videos myself, and there's nothing more annoying than having somebody constantly repeat the same garbage and everybody to like, subscribe, and all this other garbage. I don't need it. We're just here to educate, whether anybody likes it or not. All right, I'm going to address a few more comments, and we're going to wrap it up. Tina Chambers. My housing authority is selling 124 if our homes and causing us. Let me reread this comment real quick. It sounds like your housing authority is selling 124 units and you're residing in one of them. Oh, I don't know, Tina. I'm not sure about the question you're asking there. So I'm going to have to skip it for now. Belle Anamorphed. Interesting name of the day. So Miss Bella, you've earned the interesting YouTube name of the day. I like that name. I'm going through the same, but also next door. Auntie April, good afternoon. Is moving or having to move in with a friend considered homeless? I would say so if you're surfing the couch. Look, if you're not on a lease, you don't have a mortgage to a home, then you're pretty much imminently homeless, okay? Because you don't have a home. Yeah. Anamorph says housing is not easy to work through. Porting when landlords are discriminating. I could see how that could be a problem, yes. Tina Chambers, yes, correct. Jasmine, I'm 61, just got on the wait list for 25 years. Jasmine, look, if you a 25-year wait, I'm not even sure if that exists, but I would suggest to you that you're in trouble if you're waiting 25 years. Hollywood Dame, I received an HCB voucher, unable to find a one bedroom. Voucher expired at 1/23. Okay, so it's expired this month. What can you do? Well, if you can't find housing in your own city, then you'll need to port that voucher to a different city where the whole market isn't absorbed. In other words, you need to port it, and that would move that voucher out of the control of that housing authority into another and would reset the clock. It's a legal cheat, basically. And there's some other solutions. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to be wrapping this up, and I'm going to say this. If you're struggling with housing, you're struggling with vouchers, you're dealing with a complex issue that's in related to Section 8 housing and so on, and you've tried your efforts, you've written everybody, you've done everything you can possibly do, and you're still tossing, turning, you're losing sleep, you're unsure about what to do, then and only then would be a good time to reach out to our company. We talk with people. Look, we bill 45 for 20 minutes, okay? Talk about what you need to talk about. We'll see if there's a common resolution. We offer casework to help people through it. A wide range of issues. Same thing with landlords. We help with occupancy, lease up, education, and so on. If you reach the tipping point and you can't handle this stuff anymore, you're just tired, you're wore out, then reach out to us, okay? But not before you've tried everything, because due diligence and doing your very best first is always the most appropriate thing. And then after that, if you need help, then this is what I do, is I consult with clients. And I answer a lot of questions, sometimes in great depth, and I help with a wide range of issues. That being said, I see there's more comments rolling through, but I don't unfortunately have time to answer them all. So I'm going to post for one more comment, and that's going to be linkage to our company. We provide contractual agreements, CRMs on agreements, KYC, know your customer. We host almost a terabyte of operational procedure manuals for nearly all the housing authorities out there. We also have a wide range of former and current housing authority employees, directors, and executive level people that have worked for major housing authorities that we also consult with and we talk with. So we have I think that I probably outlast every consultant in the country when it comes to this, except for 203K consultants, which deal with the building process and subsidies. But I would say that there's probably no second to me. If anybody can find anybody that knows as much as I do on the subject matter, Section 8 and all this included, please let me know. But I'm not aware of any. I've even talked to the bigger social media channels on Instagram, TikTok, and so on. They all defer to me. Okay. A lot of them base their videos and stuff that we talk about here. So, and as I always tell my clients, if I can't get something done for you and I don't have an answer, then you can almost rest assured that there isn't anybody in this country that could help you if I can't. Uh, I really do consider myself the last stop with a lot of complex issues. We also retain a law firm which helps us in a lot of different issues and also defends us against overzealous PHAs and housing authorities who prefer me to go away quietly in the night. But that's never going to happen. My job exists because they don't want to do a particular part of their job, and that's give answers honestly, whether people like it or not. Whether I deliver videos with or without profanity, it doesn't matter. As long as it addresses the intensity of the situation and it's the truth, because people are tired of being lied to. That's it. They're tired of being talked to badly. They're tired of being lied to, and they're tired of having people dodge them. You want answers? I do my best to answer them. To date, I can only think of 3 clients that have ever called me where I was actually stumped, didn't know. And I told them up front, I said, look, somebody's finally asked something I don't know. So that being said, guys, I want to wish you all a very good day. And if I missed your question, skipped over your question, or failed to answer it, there's always another video. Okay, guys? I can't answer them all. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.